In the golden embrace of an autumn afternoon, Windsor Castle stood as a timeless sentinel of British heritage, its ancient stones glowing with the warm hues of falling leaves, its towers casting long shadows across the quadrangle. The air was crisp, laced with the scent of damp earth and history. As a military tribute unfolded in September 2022, drawing a crowd of dignitaries, locals, and tourists, their smartphones poised to capture the spectacle. Among the scarlet-clad soldiers of the Guard of Honor, Asha Tapa stood motionless, her 23-year-old face a mask of disciplined resolve, her dark eyes glistening with unshed tears as Queen Elizabeth II passed in a pale blue coat. Her presence a quiet beacon of continuity. For those of you who've lived through the trials of war, the steadfast pride of service, or the enduring love of family through decades of change, the Guard of Honor is a symbol of duty, their precision, a reflection of the traditions you've cherished, perhaps the memory of a Victory Day parade, the weight of a family heirloom, or the honor of a promise kept through lineage. But on this day, Asha, a British soldier of Nepalese descent, would break centuries of protocol by not saluting the Queen, her silence. A heart-wrenching tribute to her late father, Prem, that would stun the nation, move a monarch, and teach a lesson in love that echoed far beyond Windsor's ancient walls. Asha Tapa was a woman of fierce determination. Her scarlet tunic and black cap a testament to her place among Britain's elite. Her lithe frame belying the strength forged through years of training. Born in a remote village in Nepal's Himalayas, she grew up amidst rugged peaks and terraced fields. Her childhood filled with the rhythm of mountain life, carrying water from streams, tending goats with her younger brother, listening to her father's stories by the firelight. Prem Tapa, a Gurkha who had served the British Army for 20 years, was her hero, his weathered face softening as he spoke of his service in far-off lands, his kukri knife gleaming as he described marches through Malaysian jungles and vigils in Cyprus. The uniform is a promise, he told Asha, his voice steady, his eyes bright with pride as he pinned a Gurkha badge on her at age 10, its brass warm from his hands. To you, who may recall the pride of a family legacy, perhaps a grandfather's war medals, displayed in a glass case, a mother's wartime letters tucked in a drawer, or a father's gardening tools still used each spring. Prem's stories might echo the tales that shaped your own path, a testament to the power of heritage to inspire. When Prem moved the family to Aldershot, a hub for Gurkha families in the UK, Asha was Dwali, her heart still tied to the Himalayas, but her future set on British soil. She excelled in school, her quiet determination earning her a place in the army at 18. Her goal to join the Guard of Honor and carry her father's legacy forward. Asha's training was relentless, marching through rain-soaked fields in Hampshire, mastering rifle drills under the barked orders of sergeants, polishing boots until they mirrored the sky. Her comrades, a mix of seasoned soldiers and eager recruits, respected her grit, though some whispered about her heritage, their comments stinging but never breaking her. She thought of Prem, who had faced prejudice yet served with honor, his kukri, a symbol of resilience. Her dream led her to Windsor Castle, where the Guard of Honor was a pinnacle of military prestige, their scarlet tunics a vivid contrast to the castle's grey stone. Asha stood out, her Nepalese features a quiet statement of diversity in a tradition-steeped institution, her presence a bridge between two worlds. For you, who've navigated such bridges, perhaps raising children in a new country, blending old customs with new, or proving yourself in a world that doubted you, Asha's journey might resonate. A reminder of the strength it takes to honor both past and present. Weeks before the ceremony, tragedy struck, shattering Asha's world like glass. In the midst of a training exercise, her phone rang, the voice of her mother, Leela, trembling across the miles from Aldershot. Prem had died, his body succumbing to a pancreatic illness he had hidden to spare his family worry. His stoicism, a final act of love. Asha's rifle slipped from her hands, her knees buckling as she sank to the wet grass, the rain masking her sobs. She returned to Nepal for his funeral, a journey that felt like a pilgrimage. Her mother's hand clasped tightly in hers as they stood before Prem's pyre. The flames rose, their heat a stark contrast to the Himalayan wind, and Laila's sobs mingled with the chants of village elders. Gurkha tradition, rooted in centuries of Nepalese culture, forbade saluting during mourning, a custom that honored the dead by reserving gestures of respect for the living, a way to hold one's actions in reverence for the departed. For Asha, this was a sacred link to Prema, a way to keep his spirit close. But it clashed with her duty as a British soldier, where saluting the Queen was a non-negotiable act of loyalty, a cornerstone of the Guard of Honor's code. To you, who faced such cultural conflicts, perhaps choosing between a family ritual and a workplace rule, or balancing faith with societal expectations, this tension might echo a moment when two worlds demanded your allegiance, leaving you to find a path between them. Leela, her mother, stood with Asha at the funeral, her sari fluttering in the wind, her eyes red but resolute. Honor him, she pleaded, her voice breaking. But don't lose yourself. He wanted you to shine. Asha packed her scarlet tunic, her fingers tracing the curve of Prem's kukri, its blade etched with his initials, its weight a silent vow to carry both her father's memory and her duty to the crown. Back in Aldershot, she resumed training, her grief a quiet companion, her comrades noticing the change in her eyes, but saying nothing. Major Harris, her commanding officer, a man with a reputation for unrelenting discipline, called her to his office, his voice sharp as he fixed her with a glare. "You're distracted. Tapa," he said, his pen tapping his desk. "The Queen's tribute is in 2 weeks. One mistake, and you're done." Asha nodded, her jaw tight, but her heart was a storm. Salute the Queen and betray Prem's memory, or honor her father and risk her career, a reputation, her place in the army she had fought to join. She trained harder, her drills flawless, her boots polished to a mirror shine. But at night, alone in her bunk, she held the kukri, its blade reflecting her resolve, her tears falling silently as she whispered prayers in Nepali. The day of the tribute arrived, Windsor Castle, a spectacle of tradition and pride. The quadrangle was lined with scarlet-clad soldiers, their rifles gleaming, their caps a sea of black against the castle's grey stone. Spectators crowded the barriers, their cameras flashing, their murmurs a soft hum as they awaited the Queen. Dignitaries in tailored suits and hats mingled with locals, their chatter filled with anticipation for the military display. Asha stood in the Guard of Honor, her heart pounding beneath her tunic, her eyes shimmering with the grief she kept locked away. She thought of Prem, his voice echoing from their Himalayan nights. The uniform is a promise to serve, to honor, to stand tall. She thought of Laila, her mother's plea to shine without losing herself. Major Harris stood nearby, his eyes scanning the ranks, his radio at the ready, his warning ringing in Asha's ears. The Queen expects perfection. As the Queen's car approached, the crowd fell silent, the air thick with reverence. Elizabeth II stepped out, her pale blue coat and hat a quiet elegance, her presence commanding yet warm, her eyes scanning the ranks with a wisdom honed by 70 years of reign. Asha's comrades prepared to salute, their movements a synchronized dance. But Asha stood frozen, her arms rigid at her sides, her heart screaming a single truth. "This is for father." The Queen passed, her steps measured, her smile a gentle acknowledgement of the soldier's service, her aides trailing behind with practiced ease. Asha remained still, her posture unyielding, her hands refusing to rise, her silence a tribute to Prem's memory, to the Gurkha tradition that bound her to him. Gasps rippled through the crowd, spectators whispering, their phones capturing the unthinkable. A soldier of the Guard of Honor failing to salute the monarch. "What's she doing?" a woman muttered, her voice sharp with confusion. "Is that allowed?" a man hissed. "His camera." zooming in. Major Harris reached for his radio, his face livid, his voice low but furious as he muttered, "She's disrespecting the crown." His fist clenched, his eyes burning with the promise of a reprimand that could end Asha's career. Sarah, a comrade standing beside Asha, glanced over, her brow furrowed with confusion, but her silence a small act of loyalty, a refusal to judge in the heat of the moment. Asha's eyes stayed fixed on the queen, tears held back by sheer will, her heart a battleground where love for her father fought the weight of duty. The expectations of her uniform, the scrutiny of a nation watching. For you, who've stood at such a precipice, perhaps refusing to conform for the sake of a loved one, holding fast to a cultural ritual despite judgment, or choosing silence when words were expected. Asha's moment might recall a time when standing still was an act of courage. When your heart spoke louder than the world's demands, she thought of Prem, his kukri in her hands as a child, its blade a symbol of his strength, his stories of Gurkha honor filling her with pride. She thought of Leela, her mother Sari, fluttering at the funeral, her plea to honor Prem without losing herself. The crowd's whispers grew, their phones flashing like fireflies, their voices a mix of outrage and curiosity. A dignitary in a pinstriped suit frowned, his murmur of disgraceful caring to the ranks. A local pensioner, her scarf tight against the autumn chill, watched with softer eyes, sensing something deeper in Asha's stillness. Major Harris' radio crackled, his voice sharp as he prepared to call for Asha's removal. But then the queen paused, her steps halting just paces from Asha. A breach of protocol that silenced the quadrangle like a held breath. Elizabeth de Decin turned, her sharp eyes locking onto Asha's, their gaze piercing yet gentle, as if reading the grief that anchored the young soldier's silence. The crowd froze, dignitaries gaping, their murmurs stilled by the weight of the moment. Cameras zoomed, their lenses catching a monarch and a soldier bound by an unspoken understanding, a connection that transcended the ceremony's formality. Major Harris lowered his radio, his eyes wide with shock, his anger giving way to uncertainty, his hand hovering as if unsure of its purpose. Sarah's breath caught, her glance shifting from Asha to the queen, her confusion tinged with awe. The queen stepped forward, her movements deliberate, her presence a quiet command that parted the air like a curtain. Asha braced for judgment, her heart pounding, her mind racing with the consequences, reprimand, dismissal, disgrace, the loss of everything she had worked for. But what she found was compassion, a warmth that cut through the autumn chill like sunlight through a storm. A grace that felt like Prem's hand on her shoulder, guiding her still. The queen stood before Asha, her face soft, her eyes carrying the wisdom of a life spent reading hearts, a reign that had seen wars, crises, and countless acts of courage. "Your father was a great soldier," she said, her voice clear yet intimate, a tone that reached Asha's soul and quieted the crowd's whispers. "We honor him through you." From her aide, she took a silver medal, its surface etched with the Gurkha insignia, a crossed kukri, and a laurel wreath, its shine a beacon of recognition. With steady hands, despite her 96 years, the queen pinned it to Asha's tunic, the metal warm against the scarlet fabric, its weight a bridge between Asha's Nepalese roots and her British service. Asha's tears fell. Her voice choked as she whispered, "Thank you, Your Majesty," her words barely audible but heavy with gratitude. The crowd erupted in applause, their shock transforming into awe, their hands clapping in a wave that echoed off the castle's ancient walls, a sound that felt like the heartbeat of a nation moved. Sarah smiled, her confusion replaced by pride, her nod a silent vow of friendship. Major Harris nodded, his sternness softened by the Queen's act, his radio forgotten as he joined the applause, his respect earned in a moment of unexpected grace. For you, who've known such moments of unexpected mercy, perhaps a teacher who saw your struggle when you faltered, a neighbor who offered help during a dark time, or a stranger who extended kindness when you expected scorn. The Queen's compassion might stir a memory of a time when love came unbidden. When Grace rewrote a story you thought was set, Asha raised her hand at last, her salute crisp and heartfelt, a gesture that honored Prem's memory, the Queen's trust, and the legacy she carried in her blood. The medal shone, a symbol of a moment that would live beyond the day, a testament to the power of love, to transcend tradition, to mend the rift between duty and heart. The crowd's applause grew, dignitaries joining in, their frowns replaced by nods of approval, their murmurs now of admiration. The pensioner in the scarf wiped a tear, who whispered, "God bless her," a prayer for Asha's courage. A child, in the crowd, clutching his mother's hand, pointed at Asha, his voice bright. "She's a hero." The moment was fleeting, the Queen moving on, her aides trailing, but its impact was eternal, a spark that would light fires far beyond Windsor's gates. The moment went viral, smartphones carrying the story across the globe, from the UK's rolling hills to Nepal's rugged peaks, from London's bustling streets to the smallest villages where Wi-Fi flickered. Headlines blazed in newspapers and on screens. Queen's compassion stands nation. Soldiers' silence honors father. Moves monarch. A Gurkha's tribute at Windsor. Social media buzzed, with posts flooding Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Her silence spoke for us all. The Queen saw her heart. Asha Tapa shows what duty means. Videos of the moment racked up millions of views. The image of Asha's stillness and the Queen's medal, a universal language of love and respect. Letters poured into Asha's barracks in Aldershot. Thousands of envelopes bearing British stamps. Their words a chorus of gratitude, inspiration, and shared grief. A vicar from Yorkshire wrote, "Your act reminded our parish to honor those we've lost with love, not just duty. We've started a fund for Gurkha veterans in your father's name." A teacher from Sussex shared, "My students see you as a hero. Proof that faith and family matter. They're writing essays about you." A pensioner from Cornwall, her handwriting shaky but heartfelt, said, "I lost my son in 45, and your silence is his silence. Love that doesn't need words." In Nepal, Asha's mother, Leela, wept with pride, clutching Prem's photo as villagers gathered in their small square. Their cheers a tribute to a daughter who had bridged two cultures with a single act of courage. The village elders, their faces lined with years of mountain life, lit butter lamps in Prem's honor, their prayers rising with the smoke, their voices lifted in songs of gratitude for Asha's strength. Young girls in the village, their eyes bright with dreams, began training with wooden kukris, their laughter echoing as they spoke of joining the army, inspired by the woman who had stood still to move the world. For you, who've seen your actions ripple perhaps a kind word that changed a child's path, a small deed that grew beyond your sight, or a story that inspired a community. This spread of Asha's story might recall a time when your heart touched lives you never met. Asha, back in Aldershot, read each letter, her fingers tracing the ink, her heart heavy with gratitude and grief. The kukri on her desk, a silent companion as she whispered thanks to Prem, to the Queen, to the strangers who saw her. Asha returned to duty, her scarlet tunic a symbol of her dual heritage. The silver medal pinned to her chest, a constant reminder of the Queen's words, her father's legacy, and the moment that had redefined her. Major Harris, once furious, became a quiet supporter, his nod a sign of respect earned through fire, his gruff, "Well done." Tapa a rare gift that warmed her heart. Sarah, her comrade, shared tea with Asha in the barracks. Their laughter, a bond forged in the quadrangle's tension. Their conversations now filled with stories of their families, their dreams, their shared pride in serving. The Queen's Act and Asha's silence sparked conversations across Britain parishes, discussing the balance of tradition and love. Schools teaching children about cultural respect. Families reflecting on their own legacies during Sunday dinners or quiet evenings by the telly. A church in Manchester held a service for Prem, its pews filled with pensioners like you, who saw in Asha a reflection of their own quiet acts of love through years of hardship, sharing rations during the war, knitting blankets for refugees, praying for peace in a world of turmoil. The story reached beyond the UK, touching hearts in Nepal, where military recruiters noted a surge in young women applying, their applications citing Asha as their inspiration. In Aldershot's Gurkha community, families gathered to honor Prem, their homes filled with the scent of dal and incense, their voices raised in toast to Asha's courage. A letter from a Birmingham grandmother read, "I cared for my husband through cancer, and your silence reminds me why I kept going. Love is worth the risk." A veteran from Leeds, his handwriting steady despite his 90 years, wrote, "I served with Gurkhas in 44, and you've made them proud. Your father's smiling somewhere." A school in Kent sent a drawing, children's crayons capturing Asha in her scarlet tunic, the Queen in blue, the medal a bright star between them. Asha kept the drawing in her locker, its colors a reminder of the lives she had touched, the children who saw her as a hero, the future she was helping to shape. Months later, Asha visited Prem's memorial in Nepal, a simple stone in their village, its surface etched with his name, the Gurkha crest, and a single word, honor. She knelt, the silver medal gleaming, Prem's kukri in her hand, its blade reflecting the sunset's fiery glow. The wind carried the scent of pine and memory, and Asha's silence was a prayer, a vow to carry her father's legacy forward, to serve with the same courage he had shown. Her mother joined her, Leela Susari, a splash of color against the stone, her hand resting on Asha's shoulder, her smile a mirror of Prem's pride. The village gathered, their faces lit by lamplight, their songs a celebration of a daughter who had honored her father, her culture, and her country. Asha's act had inspired millions, from UK churches holding collections for Gurkha families to Nepalese girls dreaming of military service, their eyes bright with possibility, their hands gripping practice rifles as they marched in dusty fields. For you, who've honored loved ones, perhaps visiting a grave with a single rose, keeping a family recipe alive, or telling stories to keep a memory burning, this moment might echo a time when love was your tribute, when silence spoke louder than any gesture. Back in the UK, Asha continued her service, her scarlet tunic a symbol of her dual heritage, her medal a badge of her courage, her presence a quiet revolution in the army's ranks. She trained new recruits, her voice firm but kind, her story a lesson in balancing duty and heart. Major Harris invited her to speak at a regimental dinner. His introduction, gruff but warm. Tapa showed us what honor looks like. Sarah, now a close friend, stood by her side, their bond a testament to the power of understanding forged in a moment of crisis. The Queen's Act and Asha's silence continued to ripple parishes across Britain, launched initiatives in Prem's name. From food banks to veteran support groups, their volunteers inspired by a soldier who had stood still for love. A letter from a London priest read, "Your story taught our congregation to see the heart behind the uniform, to honor the unseen." A group of school children in Bristol sent a video, their voices singing a hymn in Prem's memory, their faces bright with hope. Windsor Castle, in the quiet of another autumn, remains a place of history. Its quadrangle, a stage for duty and devotion. Its stones bearing the weight of countless stories. Asha's moment and the Queen's compassion live on, a spark for those who believe in the power of love, to transcend even the strictest protocols, to bridge cultures, to heal wounds. For you, who've lived through decades of change through the rationing of post-war Britain, the joy of family milestones, the sorrow of loved ones lost this tale, is a call to remember the moments that define us. Perhaps it's a time you chose heart over duty, a meal shared during a blackout, a hand extended to a stranger, a tradition set aside for love. Maybe it's a memory from the war. When you stood by a comrade under fire, or a moment at home. When you honored a loved one's memory, despite the world's expectations. Your silence. A tribute louder than words. Asha's silence and the Queen's grace invite you to share those stories with your children, your grandchildren, your friends at the village hall, your neighbors over a cuppa. Write them in a letter. Tell them at a family gathering. Let them live on in the quiet spaces where memories are kept, where love takes root and grows. In a world that often demands conformity, this story reminds us that silence can speak louder than salutes, that a single act of heart can echo through time, touching lives we may never know. What would you choose, duty or heart? Perhaps it's a moment when you stood still for love, when you honored a memory over a rule, when you chose compassion despite the cost. Your silence, a testament to the ones who shaped you. Share it, whether in a whispered conversation, a note slipped into a loved one's hand, or a story told at a parish supper. And let it be a spark that lights the way for others. For silence speaks louder than salutes, and Asha's lesson, through the Queen's compassion, shines on, a light for us all.